Time to put the door lock on the front door. So we've got this single barrel, nice brass look, be pretty. So we'll take it out and see what we got and get it installed and watch some videos on this. It doesn't seem too difficult. The hardest part's just drilling through this metal. So we'll get started. Alright, so I have this template that says to put the edge of that line there. So technically this is supposed to be for like a single door, but we'll make it work for this. So it says to put it right there at the edge of the door. So I did that with the piece itself with the door closed, and it won't really work because the other part of the latch hits like here. So it's technically hitting this door. So I have to slide it over a little bit more so that these far left screws are hitting the very edge of the door basically for this to work. And then I'm still gonna have to rig the other side so it works. So, all right, so I need to go out and get this bit. This is an 1.25" hole saw for metal. So we're gonna drill our hole here to be able to put our lock through. One side drilled out. Time to go to the other side. But I have an issue here I'm going to show you. So I have an issue here that this piece here on the left side is interfering with my hole. So I'm going to have to figure out how to cut that little piece out as well. Alright, so there's my hole for this side. So now we'll just drill it out. There you go. Alright, so the next step is I take the lock, and then there's this little ring that goes around it. So if you didn't have this little ring, which I actually did this, I put this up here and I went, shoot, because this thing was going through. But then I realized there's this little ring that you put around it like this. There we go. And then you stick it up to the hole. And then I'll show you on the back side what we have to do. Alright, so then on the back side, you have this little plate that you stick right here. And there's 2 screws that go into the door, and then 2 screws that go through this plate into that lock. And then you also have to break this thing off at the length of where it's going to hit within the other piece, the big locking mechanism here. So we'll do that. Alright, I made a silly little mistake. So this plate, I've got this bump coming out, and I need to flip it around to be able to get this other piece flat against the door. So I gotta flip this around. Alright, so now I've got this screwed in. So it says to break this off about a 1/2 inch longer than the door. Are at 1/4 and a 3/4. So we're gonna first break it off at 1/4, see if that works, and then if not, I'll cut it at 1/2. Alright, I may just get the grinder and grind it off. Alright, so I've got this guy on. So you can see I got key working. So now all I have to do is line up this guy on the other side. So what I did was put it on this board because the distance between this thing and the door is pretty big. So I've got a 3/4 inch board on here right now. I may have to add a little bit more. But then when I close it, you can see here, you can see right there, I had to cut out a piece of this weather stripping in order for this piece to fit through there. Yeah, and I tried to line it up best I could with this all the way to the left. So I would have to cut out the least amount of that weather stripping. So when it closes, so you can see here, this has to go through all that in order to get to its home. So I'm gonna have to figure out some sort of extra weather stripping on this door right here to cover this up. But we'll get that figured out eventually. But for now, I got to get this attached to this door, and then we'll be good, at least temporarily for now, until I can get it cleaned up. All right, so that concludes this video of installing this lock, and a few things just to warn you about. So when I originally did this, there's the little piece that goes through the door. So this is the lock, so that's on the outside, and this goes through the door and attaches into this to be able to operate the mechanism. And I accidentally cut that too short. They said leave a 1/2 inch, but because I'm dealing with a bus, I forgot to leave that room for error, margin of error. Everything doesn't sit as flat as it does in a house. So that's one thing. Make sure you cut that a little bit longer. So I actually cut mine almost 1 inch long, and that worked. And then it just takes a while to get this little guy lined up to the other side. So that's just tedious work. So what I did was I put it on there. I put it on this lock right here, and I attached that little piece to a board, locked it into here, closed the door, lined up where my holes were going to be for this board, drilled one of them so that if my alignment was off, I could adjust it easily. So actually this screw down here was the first one I put in, and when I put it in, it wasn't quite lining up right. It was actually sitting too far this way on the lock. So what I did, actually, I just took a hammered this end that way, just a little bit. That gave me the clearance I needed, and I relocked on this side, and then I drilled my holes, set it in. Everything was good to go, and then I just had to keep kind of adjusting, cutting this a little bit, little bits here and there that I had to cut out to get it to work. But all in all, pretty easy. It took me about 4.5 hours, but that included that piece that I kind of broke. Had to go get a new lock. So luckily these locks are only like 20 bucks. So not too bad on cost. And yeah, so if you take out that time, it took me about 4-ish hours to install this. So not too bad. Bam! Lock installed.